Okay, good evening. My name is Keith Romano. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. Today's date is March 24th, 2021, and the time is 7:03 p.m. Is the recorder on?
It is.
Great. I'd like to take a roll call of the members of the commission and staff present during tonight's remote meeting. Please answer here present, starting with myself, Keith Romano. Lois Spence, who's our vice chair and secretary.
Here.
Jim Stewart is not with us. He's on a hiatus. Clark Gingras.
Here.
Ross Masaraco.
I'm here.
BJ Hall.
Present.
And Denise Halstead, our inland wetlands agent.
Here.
Donna Szynski, our office manager.
Present.
And Sarah Stroud, recording secretary.
Here.
Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. Inland Wetlands Mission Statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. Meeting procedure. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. Due to remote meeting status, I'd like to ask the applicants to keep presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments pro and opposition or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Again, due to remote meeting status, please keep comments or questions direct, and a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new materials entered in as evidence or testimony during the response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetland related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow with a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are. Do you want to go first, Denise, or do you want me to?
You could go first and then I'll go follow.
Okay. So under item D, application hearing determinations, I would like to add IWC 2021-04. It is for 5 Victoria Drive, and it's an application for the development of an athletic field and a building. And those items are up on the town website under meeting agenda material if anyone wants to review the application or see the plans, although they will be up later in the meeting. Okay, Denise, go ahead.
Okay, under item G, IAA 2021-08, 61 Millbrook Terrace, installation of a 12 by 14 shed. And under item G14 for permitted uses as of right, I've got IPU 2021-05, 35 Highfield Drive for dead tree removal.
Okay. All right. This is the general public participation part of the meeting. Is anybody in the public that wants to speak to the commission on anything of a general nature, provided that topic is not in front of us currently or will be in front of us in the near future? Please identify yourself. Caller 5. I guess that was just background noise. Okay. All right, over to subdivision B, regulated activity subdivision report, recommendation to P&Z Commission, none. 5, regular meeting, no public input, IWC 2021-02, 56 Hammertown Road, addition to existing non-conforming single-family home.
560, not 56.
I'm sorry, 560. Long day.
It's okay.
Yep.
So we should have Mr. D'Amico here to represent.
I don't see him. I see Mr. Danzer on, and I think he's involved in this one too, but one part of it, Steve, not the whole thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, I am involved in this project, and that's why I'm here, but I'm not prepared to present. That was going to be Mr. D'Amico.
We don't see him offhand.
I imagine I was hoping he'd be one of the callers. I think he said he was unable to video in, but I don't know who those callers are.
I don't either,
We have
unfortunately.
we have a few
We have
callers,
three
but
callers, and only number 5, up, now number 3 is,
Hello?
No, I'm
Hello, can
unmuting.
you hear me? Hello?
we hear,
Yes,
I
caller
hear you.
one.
Yes, this is Fred D'Amico. Can you can hear me now?
yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, I'm the project engineer. Basically, I
Fred,
think what I'll do is
stay-
I'll pardon?
Brett, just because, especially since we can't see you, state your name and your company for the record.
Fred D'Amico, from D'Amico Associates, office at 9 Park Road in Oxford. Basically, what we're proposing, we have approximately a 1 acre parcel, slightly under 1 acre. And there's an existing dwelling on it, but we're proposing a small addition on it. And that will enable the house to be a 3-bedroom house. And we're proposing the septic system uphill from it, so we keep the septic system out of the regulated, I believe, actually, just about everything is in the regulated area. Because as you could see on the plan, the wetlands basically is the entire east side of the property. But the 100-foot setback or 100-foot regulated area basically encompasses the whole parcel. What we're proposing is it's actually an area that was cleared already, and you could even see on the east side, there's an existing shed on the other side of the wetlands, which basically shows you that the entire parcel was really being utilized. And it was obviously disturbed prior to this proposal. So I don't think anything we're going to be doing is going to be detrimental to the wetlands. If anything, I think we'll be cleaning it up. What we're proposing is just an area. We're going to keep the existing gravel driveway. So we won't be extending a driveway at all. We won't be going towards the wetlands at all, except for the proposed drainage galleys to mitigate the increase in runoff from the proposed addition. You can see there's 4 proposed galleys directly to the east of the existing dwelling, approximately only 10 feet away. And then from there, we're actually going to fill just a little area just to make sure that we have enough, we're above the modeling for that, the detention galleys. There won't be there's no fill required for the septic system. The septic system, the conditions were fine. That, matter of fact, has been approved by the health department already. And the other thing, what we're proposing is, I do have proposed wetlands plantings, and I have them just over what I call the limit of clearing and limit of activity. And the only activity past that would be just the plantings, and they're proposed to plant right along that clearing limit to help ensure that no one goes further into the wetlands. We also are proposing a split rail fence, which is the heavy dashed line that's right along. You'll see the silt fence, then you'll see the split rail fence to the left of it, and then to the right of it is the limit of clearing. And then I showed the proposed plantings just to the right of that. I know there was a confusion as what's the limit of clearing and why is the plantings past the limit of clearing or limit of activity. But like I said, the only thing that we're proposing is those plantings. If necessary, we can move the plantings back on the other side of the limit of clearing or vice versa. We're also proposing the wetland markers. They're shown on the plan. There's 6 wetland markers at mainly every bend and within, so that they're only like less than 50 feet apart. The septic system, like I said, it was approved. It's a pump up system, and the system itself is going right along the Hammertown Road, so it's as far as possible away from the wetlands. And the closest activity to the wetlands would be, I believe, is the well. We have to keep the well 75 feet away from the septic system, so we have that to the south as far as possible to ensure that we have the 75-foot setback. Other than that, I believe we have. I think the plan basically is basically just one little residential dwelling that we're increasing the size slightly, but everything else is there's basically no other activity on the site, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, start with the commissioners. Commissioner Spence, you have any questions?
I do, but I'd like to give the other commissioners a chance to go first.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gingras?
From all your roof drains are going towards the very top of your addition, correct? I just
Yes,
want to make sure.
The roof drains are going around because the ridge is such a way where they're perpendicular to each other, so we're able to drain the new addition back towards the existing dwelling and run it between the valley so that it all goes to the galleys, detention galleys.
Okay, I just want to make sure because it's kind of hard to see where it's going. Okay, that's all. That's the only question I had.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Gingras. Commissioner Massaraco?
No questions.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes, I have a question about the well, the proposed well. And my first question is there an existing well?
No, there is no existing well on the property.
Okay, I noticed this well, the proposed well, is right up against the wetlands marker there. Has there been a test drill or any idea if that's a good location for the well?
I believe there should be no problem based on the existing wells within the area, directly across the street, and then there's two adjacent dwellings on the property to the north and the property to the east. Both those wells, I believe, were between 100 and 200 feet, I think, and they both had, they were both approved by the health department. So I would have to say that this is probably going to be the same depth. They should be no problem.
Okay, no other questions.
Hey, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Spence, back to you.
Okay, is there any septic existing on the property now?
No, right now there is. If there was, it was a cesspool, but we couldn't find any existing proper septic system. No.
Okay. Does that shed have a permit?
The shed, I believe the shed is probably, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years old. I have no idea. I don't believe it had a permit, but it's been existing obviously for well over 3 years. So it would be just like the existing dwelling. It would be grandfathered in as far as, I know it's close to the setback as is the existing dwelling is also right up against it's only 15 feet away, so that's within the setback also, and that's the reason when we proposed the proposed addition, we made sure we made it small enough so we wouldn't need a variance going towards the front because we had to stay 50 feet back from the front, and this way we would need no variance for the actual addition.
But since you're changing the property, do you have to bring, I asked this of Denise, I guess, does that shed have to be brought into conformance?
I
If-
talked with planning and zoning, but typically if something, it's kind of gets grandfather claused in.
Okay. Alrighty. How do they access it? Do they trudge across the wetlands to get there?
I think you could actually walk right to it. It's, even though it is shown as wetlands, but you really can walk to it. If it's an issue, if the commission feels that, you know, they're afraid that people are gonna constantly walk to and cause a disturbance walking to the shed, I'm sure we could talk to the applicant and we might be able to remove the shed or, you know, replace it, put it in, you know, in front of the silt fence so that they won't have to cross the wetlands.
That might be a boon to the future owner rather than having it.
I don't know if the homeowner would want to be tracking all the way to that shed. I mean, what's the
That's
point of the
what
shed?
I was going for, yeah. It might be something that would be a good thing.
But that's not our,
It's not our call. I just wanted to throw it out there. Is there anything else that drains to the leaching gallery?
Is there anything else that drains? The only going to the leaching galleys, it would just be the septic system, and the leaching system in the back, the galleys are just for the roof drains.
Okay, that was my question. Now, Scott had mentioned in his comment something about the footing drains. Have they been revised?
Yes, they, as a matter of fact, I originally showed footing drains, and then I realized it was kind of a mistake on my part because it's actually a slab on grade. The existing dwelling is just a slab on grade, and the proposed addition is also just going to be a slab on grade, so there is no need for footing drains.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask you to please, when you finally file your Mylar and everything, to make sure that you put the detail for the split rail fence on here because
Okay, yeah,
the dashed line does not it's not in the legend that's what that indicates. So it's a
yes,
little.
that's what I actually, I don't know, the original plans didn't have it labeled, so I actually labeled it right on the plan, split rail fence. But
You did?
I could certainly show a detail. I could certainly show a detail on it to make sure.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Now, how well vegetated is the area that you're clearing up to, where you have placed your wetland markers? You show a tree line. Is that well vegetated beyond that line?
No, no, it's not. It's basically, it's kind of like an overgrown field. It's disturbed. It's, there was some fill that was placed in it. It appears to be some fill. There's some basically debris, which the debris will probably be just cleaned off, and then basically just left the way it is. As far as no grading, no regrading is proposed at all. But there is, as far as vegetation goes, it's kind of sparse. It's kind of like there's some kind of swamp grass or something, what you would call kind of like in the wetlands. But there is hardwood trees throughout, so but it's not heavily wooded.
Okay. Well, then I guess I have a question for Mr. Danzer. Are you going to make a report separately, Mr. Danzer?
No, I'm here to answer any questions, but I did submit a very short environmental report for the record last week, which I'm hoping was
Right.
distributed.
Mhm.
I mean, I could review that in about 20 seconds or less. I mean, honestly, there isn't a lot to say about this. There's an existing dwelling there. Like I said, this is kind of an improvement in a way because the pre-existing dwelling didn't even have a septic system, so one can only guess what they did with waste. And it was basically, this site was an old, I guess you could call it a farm, a livestock farm. I don't know what the proper word for it, but they had some chickens and whatever, and it's basically in the buffer. What is now the buffer is basically just the legacy of that, just scattered farm debris. Like Mr. D'Amico said, there's fill piles. The vegetation's sparse. There's a couple of scattered trees, but it's it's the buffer is not in that very good vegetative quality. When you get into wetlands, then it's more of a natural system. The northern part of the wetlands is more of a red maple swamp, red maple trees, and the southern part is more of a shrub swamp, or a more of a trending more towards a wet meadow. So the wetland system is for what it is in fairly good condition, but the buffer area is definitely can use some improvement or mitigation, which is why Mr. D'Amico is proposing the plantings. And other than that, there's really not much to say about this property. I mean, anything you can do to mitigate impact from what used to be done with the property is an improvement.
Okay. You mentioned some fill in your report. Can you
Yes.
tell us how far the fill extends to?
There's just scattered piles. It's in the buffer and just mainly in the buffer area. It doesn't even, I don't even recollect even going into the wetland area. I don't know. I imagine it. I don't know. It was probably dug up from some project on the farm. I mean, I doubt that the fill was imported. It's not like a heavily filled site. There's just you can just tell walking through the topography, such from digging my soil borings, that there's just a couple of mounds there that just are inconsistent with natural topography.
It could have been compost piles too.
There's definitely some of that too, but it's just like just borrowed stuff from one part of the site that was moved to another part of the site.
Then, in your opinion, is the soil that is there going to support new plantings, or is that going to need to be amended in order to make them thrive?
No, I actually, the soil is probably okay. The quality of the plant life, which is basically invasive species, little flag, brambles, and multiflora rose. That's the quality of the species there is kind of questionable, but I think the soils are pretty much okay.
So, since now that the brambles and the multiflora rose, they do not thrive in the shade, should we be planting more shade trees to kind of keep them under control?
I think well, right now there's a couple of scattered trees. There's a cedar tree. There's a shagbark hickory there, and I don't remember the other. So there's partial shade already. I'm not familiar with the planting plan because I wasn't involved in that. So I think I'd have to punt that question back to Mr. D'Amico.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Danza. You answered all my questions. Then back to Mr. D'Amico. You mentioned a bunch of trees and bushes that you were proposing to plant, but there's no quantity. We would need to have that in order to approve this, so that we know exactly what it is that we're talking about. And if the area really is as sparse and disturbed as Mr. Dancer was indicating, we might need a little bit more to create a better buffer.
What I did is I showed the plantings I showed. If you could actually count them on the drawing, there's and in the legend there's two northern arrowwoods, and then I have you could see on the other plantings there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, I believe 3 spice bush, and then I have 1, 2, 3. I believe there's 3 high bush blueberry. So even though they're not numbered, you could see right where they are, because there's not that many that were proposed. If you want, we could add a couple more. That's not a problem. As a matter of fact, even if you make that a part of the if it's approved, you can make that a part of the approval. That if you want the plantings twice as much as what's there, I'm sure the applicant has no problems with that. But we were just hoping that, like I said, it would be approved. And if, like I said, if we have to add more plantings, we have no problem with that. But there is, but by looking at the drawing, you could see how many plants there are. Just by seeing where they are and counting them.
I'm doing just that, and I'm not coming up with the same, the two don't seem to jive.
Okay.
I see
It's
seven
one, two.
green symbols, but there's four plants in the legend. So
Okay.
that's less than, that's one for some and two for others, which is a little bit nebulous.
Yeah, I count two of them I counted wrong. There's two that are labeled W, which is a winterberry. I forgot to mention those. I was counting them as something else. So the two that are shown that have a W are winterberry. There is two spice bush, and then the HB, which is the high bush blueberry. There is one, two, three of those, and then the other small bush, which is NA. There's actually three of those. For some reason, the NA fell off the last one, but the NA is a northern arrowwood, so there should be three northern arrowwoods. And I could add the quantity. I could add the quantity if you need the quantity in the landscape legend. And if you, like I said, if you want me to add some more plantings, I have no problem with that.
Well, I can't speak for the whole commission, but I know that I would like to see a little bit more well planted, a little bit more dense. But I will also, ask the other commissioners what they feel about it. And other than that, I believe, Scott's comments. Scott had a whole bunch of comments and I didn't know if any of them were addressed. And the same with Denise's comments. Let's make sure everybody's zero.
I believe I addressed all of Scott's comments.
We didn't get a revised report, so I don't know from Scott's angle where that was.
What's the last report you're looking at, Lois?
Mine is dated
3/15/21?
No, mine's 3/4/21. Okay, so I do not have the most updated copy then. Okay, Denise, we're all of Scott's comments adequate?
3/4/21? I don't even see a 3/4/21. Yes, my comments have all been addressed. They basically were addressed in the set of plans, but the plans we had gotten submitted, I guess some of the layers, I guess, were off. I spoke with Mr. D'Amico about it, and he sent me the revised plans, which is what we have now. The details I was looking for and things like that were all on the back, and we talked about the legend and some of the what some of the symbols meant.
Okay, and how about Scott's comments? I mean, you said you have a revised.
Well, I have one of
still open?
I have one that says, oh, wait, hold on. Not 318 is the one I have. I'm sorry.
Denise, I don't have that one.
You don't have 318?
No.
Did he only send it to me?
I have an exhibit 5 dated 3/17. Oh, that's Denise. That's yours. Sorry.
That's Denise's, yeah. The only one I have from Scott was the one that you're reading from, Lois.
The 3/4. Date
Yes.
was 3/4. Yeah, that's the only one I have.
Well, I don't know why I have a 3. I've got one from Scott that's 318.
Are you sure it's for this address?
Yes, it says 560 Hammertown on the top.
All righty.
And it's, I guess it's 3/4/21 crossed out, and the stuff is in red like he normally does.
Okay, so were those things addressed?
So, under stormwater control, the comment that I don't see anything says, stormwater recharge system should be labeled with inlet outlet inverts indicated along with dimension and manufacturer information. Then it says which the number 5 says detailed drawings and notes of the retention system should be included. Also, filter fabric should be indicated around the entire cross section, meaning sides, bottom of the outer limits of the crushed stone.
Yeah, I did show a detail on I did add the detail of the, the details on in the back, the leaching gallery system. And
Mhm.
it does show that. And I have non-woven filter fabric on the top. I didn't show it on the side. And the only reason I didn't is because the last project I did for him, he didn't request it on the side. So I did the exact same thing, got approved last time, but I guess that shouldn't have been approved because this is different now. Just so you know that, I did show the exact same detail that was approved on actually one or two other drawings, but now he wants something different. It's
Well,
kind of
every
difficult to
property
know.
is different, Mr. D'Amico.
Because you just mentioned that he wants non-woven filter fabric around the whole
I didn't say
galley. Or did
non-woven. I just said
Maybe
filter
I-
fabric should be indicated
Oh,
around
okay.
the cross.
The filter fabric is shown on the top. Yes, then. Maybe I misunderstood it. It sounded like he wanted it around everything. But there is filter fabric.
Indicated around the entire cross section. And then he put in parentheses, sides and bottom of outer limits of crushed stone.
Okay, so then it's not shown on that. That's not what he asked for the last time. That's easily done. That's not a problem. But
I'm just reading straight off his comments, so.
yes, I understand. I know it's his comment, not yours. But
Yeah,
what I'm
and
saying is that he didn't request that the last time I did a project and it got approved. So this is something different, which again is a very easy thing to do. It's not a big deal. I could add that on the detail.
okay, and then
And
under
I'll
other,
make a note of that.
so you don't have these either?
I don't have that changed. No, not that item.
So we will have to send those to him.
I don't understand why I got it and nobody else did.
Well, I don't know either, but we'll just move on from that.
Under item B, the first one, he crossed off about the driveway, but then he says the added turnaround should be highlighted and labeled as proposed. That's an easy thing for you to fix. And then he still has a site stabilization and restoration bond estimate should be provided.
What was that? Oh, the bond? Okay.
Number five, which
Bond estimate.
it's site stabilization and restoration bond estimate.
Okay.
That was on his first, the 3-4 ones as well, so nothing changed there.
Okay.
And that I could either give you ahead of time or after. It doesn't matter. It would have to be approved by, the amount has to be approved by him or the commission anyway. So that's not a big deal.
Are these conditions, not conditions, but are these comments of Scott's things that can be addressed after we close? Or do we have to keep it open until they are addressed?
I think that they could be addressed after. It's details, Lois, so it would be part of our review of approval, before they could get to construction. This would just be things that would have to be addressed. And we could put them, we could even put it in, if you decide to approve it, it could be a condition, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I believe I'm done with the questions.
Do we have any exhibits that we have to read into the record?
I do have some exhibits. Denise, did you have any other comments for you?
No, my comments, basically, he called me after when we realized that the plan, for some reason, things weren't shown on the second sheet.
Okay.
And Mr. D'Amico explained everything to me and I was okay with it. And I said, that's when we get the next set of plans, it will all be addressed on it, so.
Okay. So while this is not a public hearing, it's just a regular review, I do have some exhibits. The exhibit 1 are the inland wetland AD comments dated March 3rd. Exhibit 2 is the town engineer comments dated March 4th. Exhibit 3, revised drainage calculations dated July 7th, 2020, revision date March 15th, 2021. Exhibit 4, updated plan set by D'Amico Associates. The document was dated January 15th, 2021, revision date March 15th, 2021. Exhibit 5, are updated inland wetland agent comments dated March 1st, revision date March 17th. I'm going to assume that there are updated town engineer comments, which we will be putting as Exhibit 6 into the record, and I don't have the exact revision date. And I did receive Exhibit 7 was a health department comment saying that the septic system had been approved. And that's it.
Okay. So do we make a motion to close this regular hearing?
Make a motion that we close this regular hearing.
Got a motion to close the hearing, second by Commissioner Hall, motion by Commissioner Gainer, second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Moving along, public hearings, we have none. Enforcement, NOP discussion, nothing. Remediation conditions, IWR 2020-02, 224 Guinea Road. Remediation plan to remove fill and replant the wetlands area.
Okay. Mr. Bjorklund was not able to make it tonight. He had another meeting he had to attend. 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Attorney Lito with an attachment. I sent it off to Dave. It still had some open-ended issue questions. And so what Dave said to me is, I sent the draft to the client and asked that they forward it to their attorney for review. I have heard nothing back. If you could share this with the IWC, I'd appreciate it. So that's all we have right now. So it's in the applicant's attorney's hands now.
Okay.
So we're tabling this one again?
Table it again.
Tabled.
All right, sounds good. So that down
I
to
don't know what else to
application,
do.
or if that's the situation we're in. Okay, so application hearing determination, IWC 2021-03, 8 Crownview Drive, new home construction with associated site improvements, pool and pool house.
So this is just the determination of whether it's a regular review or public hearing.
Yes.
Make a motion that we move this to a regular meeting.
A motion to move
I'll second that.
application to a regular meeting, a second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. IWC 2021-045 Victoria Drive.
Now I was hoping that someone from Soli, you guys do not have this.
Kevin, oh, yeah,
I
Kevin's
printed
here.
it off from your
I know he's
Okay.
here.
that email.
Thank you, Kevin.
Don't go blank on us.
They haven't seen this yet, Kevin, and I wanted to try and expedite things. So if you could just maybe give a little brief synopsis so that they could make their decision.
I absolutely can.
Okay.
Thank you. For the record, my name's Kevin Soley. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Soley Engineering. Office is at 501 Main Street right here in Monroe. So this is a site at 5 Victoria Drive. The commission's probably very familiar with it. It's the location of Ole Soccer. We've been working with the planning commission for the planning department for some time. There's an interested party to purchase the property, and they're looking to do a building expansion to provide an indoor box lacrosse facility. We've gone through a couple different steps with planning the site. The zone was recently changed from industrial to business 2, and the parking requirements for the indoor recreation was reduced so we could minimize our parking that we would have to construct on the property. So we are proposing a small addition, and then essentially working within the limits of the previously approved Ole Soccer. We would assume that this would get scheduled for a full public hearing, and we'd be happy to see if the commission would
be willing to accept it and then schedule that for your meeting, maybe for your last meeting in April. Does that work with your schedule? I think on the 28th.
Okay. I guess she's basically, Kevin, you're basically saying that you're expecting a public hearing on this anyways, right?
We would, yes.
Okay, so someone want to make a motion on that?
Before we do, can I ask, usually when we get an application to determine, we get a chance to look at all of it, which we haven't really gotten to. Could we just flip through whatever other sheets there are in this plan set?
Absolutely. So site plan, again, just a proposed building expansion with parking primarily around. We are actually proposing some like a surplus parking lot in this back area, which we're proposing to be gravel, so not to create additional impervious surface. And we are maintaining the back portion of the existing field that was established as part of the Ole soccer approvals. From a grading standpoint, we're trying to minimize grading as much as we can. The portion of the building is being constructed in a floodplain, so we're providing offsetted compensatory storage to not have an impact on the flood carrying capacity of the property.
Okay, I'm sorry, Kevin, I was not explicit enough. I just wanted to see what other sheets are in the plan set. So that usually I look for, like, is there a planting plan? Is there things that I'm going to ask for in the future? So if I know they're there, we can expedite things. That's all.
We do have a landscape plan. Yes, we do have a soil erosion sediment control plan. Our normal plan set package that we prepare. So we do have that included in our application materials.
Okay. All right. That's really all I wanted to know. Thank you. I move we bring this to public hearing because
A
it's,
motion to bring this application to public hearing from Commissioner Spence, second from Commissioner Gingras. All in favor? Aye. Aye, motion passed unanimously.
Got a question though. Did he ask for us to do this, not the next meeting, but the meeting after though?
That's on his application timeline.
Oh, okay.
Whenever he gets his stuff submitted, it gets on the agenda.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because he did say that. I just want to make sure everybody knew that.
And I was able to expedite the pending legal notice that should go in next week. So it looks like potentially, Kevin, that date is correct, that we could get you on for the second meeting in April.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm trying.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We're on to E, other bond release reduction reports, none. Time extensions, none. Discussion, 64 Cambridge Drive, request for informal discussion.
Is this me again?
It's you again, yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't know if there was going to be any other discussion or anything. So thanks, members of the commission. Again, for the record, my name is Kevin Soley. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Soley Engineering. Office is located right here in Monroe at 501 Main Street. So this is the commission is very familiar with this property. We're working on a piece of property at 64 Cambridge Drive. I'm just going to share my screen and run through some of the other discussions that we've had. We are, as the commission knows, we recently had an application that was not received favorably. So we have been having these informal discussions to make sure that what we come back with is kind of consistent with what the Wetlands Commission is looking for. We want to make sure that we're able to workshop our proposal to make sure that we can have a better outcome with our next application. We, one of the last meetings, we kind of had a nice discussion on, we were trying to get down to the bottom of really some of the primary concerns of the commission and see if we could develop a plan that really tries to address a lot of the elements that the commission viewed unfavorably with our last application. So I like to think that we're able to do that. And I'm just going to kind of run through what we think our revised application would look like and make sure that the commission is generally favorable. So some of the last hearings, we kind of talked about some of the bigger issues that we saw with the site in the previous application. One of which was our remediation was kind of proposed over 2 different parcels, and it wasn't all contained on one property. So I know that was something that was of concern. The total amount of material we were looking to import and the amount of time it would take to source and place that material created some cause for concern for the commission. And so we understand that, and then obviously understanding the overall limits of the watershed we were proposing because of the amount of fill that would be required. There was concern about time duration.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Got a minute, pick up. Bro,
I think somebody needs to be muted.
after I talk.
Kevin, is that coming
That's
from
not me.
you? Because it's
No,
not
that's
even
not us.
picking up. It's not even picking up where it's coming from.
Oh.
Where it says talking.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where it was coming to. I don't see.
Everybody's muted.
There was
Oh.
a caller that seemed to disappear though, I think.
Well, let's continue on and see what happens.
I'll keep going. Thank you. So, and then obviously there was some concern. Part of our rehydration plan was to include some pumping from a well, and I think there was some concern about how the details associated with how that would happen. So, we've kind of come up with a plan. This is just the survey of the existing conditions. Obviously, we have a wetlands along the eastern side, and then the western side, and the eastern side is what we really impacted with the previous application. So we want to work on a remediation plan application. So we wouldn't do it as part of in the wetlands regulated activity. We would come in with a remediation application. I think that's one concern. And what we've come up with is essentially trying to get to a compromise to get to where we think would address all the primary concerns. Is what we're coming up with is a plan to do a couple things. And I'm going to switch to this other plan now. Essentially modify the limit of where we are proposing our overall grading so that we would essentially kind of create a larger lower pad, which would be at roughly the same elevation of where the crushing plant used to exist on the property up here. So to kind of just extend this towards the east or towards the north, and create a lower pad, and then create a smaller pad to the northern side on Independence Drive. And there's a couple things that we'd be able to do with this. One, we would considerably reduce the amount of fill that we would be required to import to the property. This plan is probably about 450,000 yards of import required, which we think could be completed in 5 years. So in the normal course of permit lifespans with the Wetlands Commission. It would also look to better mimic the contributing watershed to what was previously approved. The previously approved plan in 2006 had about a 5.05 acre watershed contributing to these easterly wetlands. This plan roughly would probably be about 5 3/4 acres, so it would actually still be a little bit more than what was previously approved. But by reducing that overall watershed, reducing the amount of fill that would be required, we think we're trying to bring this back in line from a timing standpoint that may be more palatable for the commission. And then we would include, in addition to the watershed restoration with the hydrology, we would also still propose to rehydrate the wetland with the well, and we provide additional information and details on exactly how that would happen. We've actually spoken to, we've had some meetings and discussions with a well contractor. Our existing well on the property is about 250 feet deep. And we looked at the length, both horizontally and vertically, and there's more than ample capacity in that well to actually provide for that rehydration, which we'd actually propose to start immediately. One of the things that our team met and talked about was we may like to come in with an application as soon as the next 2 weeks to simply start the rehydration immediately. You know, from all of our discussion, and I think we had a very long, robust discussion pretty much all of last year, and all of the discussion was we want to get wetlands back into these we want to get water back into these wetlands as soon as possible. While we prepare our formal restoration application, we may come in with an application that's simply just to install some piping to start getting pumping water to the southern end of this wetland immediately, because we think that getting water into this vernal pool in this wetland is going to be the best, as soon as possible, is going to be the best way to get this rehydrated, to try to get some additional vernal pool activity this season. And we're coming up on the period right now when these wetlands and vernal pools are really going to be starving for water. So we'd actually probably propose to do that right away and then follow up with the restoration plan. Additionally, this would also include a lot line revision so that it would clearly establish that all of the remediation, restoration, grading would take place on one property. So this would be the new 64 Cambridge, and this would be 4 Independence, to kind of separate the two. 64 would be access through Cambridge Drive, and 4 would be access off Independence Drive. So, you know, we would also include with that application some considerable plantings in the area that was previously cleared as part of other applications, trying to restore that canopy, that tree cover. We'd also include obviously detention basins and some probably additional wetland restoration or wetland remediation plantings in the southeast corner of the site here too as well. So we've tried to take an approach that can address a lot of the concerns, reduce the amount of fill required, reduce the duration. We think this could, we are confident that this is a good plan to address the prior acts from a prior owner, and we're hoping that the commission would see this as something that they could feel comfortable with as we bring in a formal application. I'm happy to answer any questions or really engage in dialogue on positives or negatives with this approach.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I'll start with my first question. So the 4 Independence property, that restoration, that filling is now going to be the replacement watershed to the wetlands. So that's
Correct.
the higher elevation.
That's correct.
And the easterly wall, the shear wall there, that remains in this plan?
We would keep that as it is, and we would essentially kind of backfill up against it to the lower area. So we would still, you know, as you guys may remember, the site drops in grade from here as you go down, and then you have the deepest part of the hole. So we would kind of bring this all level, so we'd have essentially a level pad that could accommodate a bigger industrial building. We would just kind of backfill against that face.
Okay.
But the face would remain up until here, where we would start to transition that back and then get all that, you know, get this area draining towards that well.
Okay, so you're basically, so is that just like a replacement kind of watershed versus what was originally there?
Well, there was probably it's a compensatory watershed, right? We wanted to get some water flowing from a hydrology standpoint, just from superficial topography, but then we would also be hydrating from the southern end with that through that well, that we would provide that additional detail to bring that along the perimeter, and then in there.
And that's just for construction purposes, the current well, until it's reestablished.
I think to start, yes. If it proves to be as robust as we think it would be, you know, we may want to consider leaving it at least partially.
All right.
I think that's something we can kind of do as we go.
Down there on the bottom on the easterly side, right where you just drew a little box and arrow, that all those grade lines, yeah, right there. Is that?
Yep.
Is that which direction is that?
So this is essentially just kind of grading up against that existing face that exists. So we wouldn't be doing any cutting or anything. Just kind of.
So that area is below the wetlands still. So it's grading
Correct.
up to the wetlands, not down to it. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And then over here, between the line between 64 Cambridge and 4 Independence, that is grading up also?
Yeah, so this would be, we'd have a higher elevation pad here, and then we would grade down to a 3-to-1 slope down to a larger level pad at a lower elevation, probably around 430, 435.
Okay, and then that still, that elevation is still good enough to use the detention basin to the north for
Yeah,
the
but
eventual stormwater in the end?
that's correct. Yeah, I think some of this would be able to contribute into that, the municipal basin as kind of in line with how it was initially contemplated from an approval standpoint.
But what about 64? Same,
Well,
the same?
64, we would again mimic the same hydrologic patterns that existed before. So this would actually drain into probably a little bit of in a detention basin here, a detention basin here, a detention basin here, because the majority of the site, remember, some of it drained to this wetland system, which drained to the Grapevine Swamp, but a good portion of this site did drain to the west and then down into Pequannock. We would match those same patterns, even with this revised approach.
Okay. All right. So 64 doesn't drain to that existing municipal pond.
It doesn't, and it wouldn't in the future.
Okay. I think that's all my questions. We'll start with Commissioner Spence.
I like it. I see Kevin go, ooh. You've combined a lot. You really put a lot of work into this, and it shows. I mean, that's very impressive. I like the fact that you're keeping all of the hydration on the same property as the wetlands are going to be, because then that property owner would be responsible for maintaining that continual hydration. I'm assuming that would be in the land records or something. I think it's a great idea. You really did pull together all of our comments, or almost all of them anyway. And the pumping thing, now from what you just said, it sounded like you felt that if it was successful, that it could continue. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, ultimately, if once we establish final grades and everything works, then we could stop it. But we want to really get it going to demonstrate its effectiveness.
I think it sounds terrific. I guess my only consideration is if you stop the pumping, then the whole southern end of the wetland, it becomes dehydrated again, because that section of 4 Independence only hydrates the northern section. It does not.
And we obviously kind of have to put a little bit more detail into this, but I think we would position this so that we would feed as the middle reaches as best we can, and then I think maybe in combination with some pumping in perpetuity, I think we're going to get a really good handle on how these things can flourish.
I think you've done a really good job. I'm really looking forward to examining the plans closely so that they're not just this big. It'll be a lot of fun. So good, thank you. I think we've got a really excellent start.
Great.
Okay. All set. Thank you, Commissioner Spence. Commissioner Gingras?
I'm all for it. I actually like this one better. It's a lot more acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gingras. Commissioner Massaraco?
Yeah, a lot less fill. That makes me happy. Would there be a plan showing the center of the property from north to south cross section?
One of the things we're going to do actually for this next set of hearings is we're going to actually provide some 3D models to better depict and show exactly how we would be doing this fill. I think that's probably, I think I probably need to take some accountability. I probably didn't do a good enough job of depicting that with the last application. So we've talked internally about having some better visuals to really kind of show and paint a picture of exactly how this is going to look. So not only will we provide it in section view, but we're going to show some 3D models too, which will really kind of hammer home, I think, how this will help.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Massaracco. Commissioner Hall?
Yes, this is much improved. I like the look of it. Couple of questions. For Independence fill, would that be filled from that Independence Drive, or would you be filling back from the Cambridge side?
So we'd be able to fill a really good chunk of it from the Cambridge side. I think we'd probably get to a point where we would either be maintaining kind of temporary access drives from Cambridge, but at some point we may be shifting that activity to come in from Independence, which is kind of consistent with how the last application contemplated, kind of like the third phase. We'd probably mimic something similar. And the other component of this is that by doing it this way, we're left with a really good piece of industrial property that could accommodate, and take advantage of the influx in industrial activity right now. And the sooner we could get that prepared and marketed and developed, then that'll also probably dictate when we would start coming in off Independence.
Okay, and you mentioned sooner. So do you have a rough timeline or phases for this?
We're kind of working through that, but again, since the total import fill would be between 450 and 550,000 yards, we can get that done in a 5-year period.
Yeah.
And I'll say I'm going to ask another question in a little bit, or once we're through the rest of the comments. The owners have been getting a lot of inquiries about projects that are going on in the state right now where they have clean fill that needs to be exported somewhere. And these are, municipal school projects where things are getting demolished and things like that. We'd really like to take advantage of the availability of that material, because that's going to allow us to get this project completed in a lot shorter time frame.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have no other questions at this point. Looking forward to seeing the detail.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Hall. Kevin, one other thing I want to ask, so at the new watershed off of for Independence, so you had showed in the previous, before you erased it, the ultimately it drains to the north to the Great Pine Swamp or something like that. But it travels through those southern wetlands. Could you kind of like show where the ultimate total water flow is, like the path?
So it's really interesting because this easterly wetland system drains from south to north, and it goes to the Great Pine Swamp, and the Great Pine Swamp essentially just sits there and acts as a big wetland system. On the eastern side of this ridge, the watershed from 36 Timothy Hill, and this is actually land owned by the Aquarian Water Company, this drains, and then this drains from north to south, and this is the upper reach of the west branch of the Pequannock. So,
Yes.
so again, what we're doing is we're creating, we're mimicking what was here before, or what was previously approved, to get the same amount of water to the Great Pine Swamp, but then we're going to be able to also match the same rate of runoff that was leaving previously to that western branch of the Pequannock.
So in a way, so you almost kind of answered my question very closely. So the last line you drew up from up by the municipal catch basin down to right where it met. Yes. So the water is going to actually be channeled in that direction and then kind of introduced to the eastern wetlands on the southern side so that it could travel through. It just seems like it would naturally want to just go straight down from 4 to, you know what I'm saying? So is there going to be like kind of a direction, a swaling, so to speak?
So I think what we'll do from a detail standpoint is we'll bring this to kind of come down and then run along here the best we can to feed into probably the midpoint of this vernal pool and wetlands. And then we would be also hydrating, via pumping the southernmost end kind of through here. And that's something that we want to actually bring in right away so we can get that started while we're in vernal pool season.
Yes. And I guess if the plan, ultimately, if the plan, succeeds as far as regenerating the wetlands, I'd be in favor of if, even if it's 10 years from now and things are closer to where they were, to not have a pump running for the rest of the time. Seems kind of just awkward to me, to try to replicate nature with, man-made electricity and all that stuff. But, yeah, it's good if it could stay and help replace it and repair it. But then if it becomes, I would certainly be okay with if it became unnecessary at some point to cut it off.
I agree, and I think part of, as the commission does with most approvals, you require, continued monitoring for at least a couple of years through growing seasons. I think that we're all very fortunate now that we have a new owner of this property who is fully committed to fixing, righting the wrongs of previous owners. And I'm sure they'd be willing to, to do whatever's necessary, throughout the duration of the restoration project or remediation project. And then, until everything's stabilized and these areas are developed and I can kind of get away from that pumping. So I agree.
All right, Commissioner Masterocco.
So the vernal pools dry up at some point late spring, correct?
Correct.
So the period of time that they're supposed to be damp, keep the pump running at that point, and then when they naturally kind of dry out a little bit, would you shut the pumps down?
We could. I mean, that vernal pool breeding season is essentially, right around now until through mid-May. So that's actually something we could talk through that with Bill Kenny, our soil scientist, and kind of develop that optimal plan. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I would like to see that. That's it.
Okay, I think we're done with questions for this, round. Kevin, you were going to continue on with some other some other comments?
I just had one other comment. So one of the things that, as I mentioned, we've had a lot of inquiries about other fill that's available, that's natural, clean material. We're going to have discussions with planning and zoning, but what we are interested in potentially doing is the regulated area on the property, even from the vernal pools. I'm highlighting in red here. So there's an area that's actually outside of the wetlands regulated area. But we're actually going to talk to planning and zoning because this material is available. We wanted to see if the commission had any issues if we were to work through this with planning and zoning to essentially set up a stockpile area on the property, with adequate silt fence protection to make sure that it's protected and things like that. But outside the regulated area, where we might be able to import and stockpile some material as it becomes available, because all that will do is speed up our overall time frame and our overall timeline to get this project finished as fast as possible.
I would think that if it's out of our, area, we don't really have anything to say about it, right? Is that my?
I have a question though. The vernal pool that's in wetland 1, are you taking that into consideration, the 500 feet from that vernal pool and its associated wetland?
Yes, this line here is actually that 500-foot buffer from
No,
that.
on the other vernal pool, because there's a pool and a wetland 1. You were in wetland 2. Yeah, that one.
Yes, so that is that 500-foot line, and then that 500-foot radius intersects the 100-foot buffer here, somewhere about here. That's where that transitions out.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's, I guess the only thing that really would, and I don't know if it even matters to us, but just, you have a travel path through there. But I don't think if it's in that zone like you're talking about, then I think the travel path has already been established and there's no issues there. I don't think. I don't see why we would have anything to say about it. It's outside of our area of influence.
We wanted to listen, as I've said before, we're trying to be as open and transparent as we possibly can with this property. So we wanted to make sure we we at least brought it to your attention informally before we did anything or pursued anything with planning and zoning.
Oh, it's good to know. It's definitely good to know. It's a positive direction. Anything else, Kevin?
That was it. And I think this was, I did just have, so I did just wanted to kind of make sure we were totally clear, because I know there was a lot of concern about the remediation restoration application versus the regulated activity. We went through the regs again. There's really little reference to the remediation or restoration approach versus a regular application. We reviewed the application materials. We know what's required. I just wanted to make sure we understood the rules associated with a restoration or remediation application and how it really differed from a normal regulated activity application. Just trying to understand what the difference is from a, I guess, procedural standpoint between the two application types.
Well, if I may jump in, procedurally, when it comes to development applications, we have to follow the statutes, all the timelines and that kind of thing. When it comes to remediation or restoration, the statutes are silent. So we, I'm not really sure how to put this. So we have more leeway in both directions with what we can do with remediation. And but we can't necessarily put it into an application development, a development application, because of the statutory time limits. And because remediation is sometimes required to happen a lot more quickly than a development one is. So that's basically the difference. And if anybody wants to jump in there and help me out with this, that would be fine. But that's my understanding of the whole thing.
Okay, Commissioner Spence. Anybody have any other comments on that topic? Nothing? Okay.
Okay. Well, I think that was, listen, I think this was incredibly worthwhile, and we really appreciate the time and the thoughtful insight, because I definitely think we can come up, I hope, it seems like this is a much better approach, and I think we're excited to get this process. And as I said, we'll probably submit an application for simply the installation of that pumping to start immediately, right away. And then we'll come in with a formal remediation restoration application for the balance of the activity. And we look forward to getting through this as expeditiously as possible.
Hey, Kevin?
Yes.
I just have a quick question. How's that aspect going to work with the subdivision extension? Because they kind of overlap a little bit. How's that going to work?
I think they're somewhat independent, but I think I think they're independent, but maybe we should talk through this a little bit more. I mean, the subdivision work, let me just share my screen again.
I'm just thinking ahead, that's all.
Yeah, is all down here, right? It's all related to the cul-de-sac and
outside of it then.
What's what?
The new work is kind of outside of that area, I believe, but I wasn't fully sure.
It is. That's correct. And I think, and especially with just trying to get this pump going, I mean, this is something simple where we would probably just drop off a plan showing, where we would be putting, a pipe and along the edges, and then what that would look like in terms of how it would be distributed. And that's what we want to start right away, because we're, as much as people said this was toast, I have, if I was a betting man, I'd wager that we'd be able to show increased activity from last year as long as we get this water flowing in the next couple weeks.
Can we see a plan before you start pumping as to like when you should stop pumping?
Of course, yeah, and that's what I wanted to submit right away, and hopefully that's something we can actually get in and possibly review at the next meeting.
I mean,
because I guess yes. The remediation or restoration applications, if they don't follow standard statute, If that's something we get in right away, is that something we could actually receive, review, and potentially approve at the next meeting?
So this could potentially be happening pretty soon.
This could be happening at, let's see, your next meeting is April, is that right? April 6th?
No, April 14th.
April 14th. Yeah, this could theoretically be happening April 15th.
The peepers are out there now. They were out there last week, not at your property, but behind my house. So hopefully this can happen. That's it for me.
One more thing from me. This application for the pumping, is it going to be for a temporary installation of this pipe or for a more permanent seasonal, 4-season installation of the pipe? That was one of the problems we had with the last one, was that it wasn't buried, it wasn't completely laid out to the point where the whole thing was safe through all 4 seasons. Excuse me.
We could get this done as easy as a garden hose to get some water flowing right away while we work on the more robust 4-season pumping application, which could be done as part of a future more detailed remediation plan. I mean, I think we want to try to get this water flowing to proof out the concept.
Okay, so you were talking about eventually putting in a much more secure system than just a garden hose.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we can. I think we can have. We can get an application in right away, and if the commission can receive that and review that on the 14th, we could have all those materials ready to be installed on the 15th, and we could get water in here right away.
That may be a little ambitious, only because we may have more concerns once we actually see plans. But I guess it depends on how soon you get the plans to us too.
Let's let them put the application in.
Oh,
We'll go
absolutely.
from there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It sounds good.
That's great.
Okay.
That's all we get asked for.
So,
Thank you.
Kevin? Oh, there you are.
Yes.
Sorry. I was looking at, it's like the Brady Bunch. I'm just looking at my calendar. So would you be able to submit something, say either the 31st, which would be next Wednesday, or the 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
We could get something next Wednesday, for sure.
I mean, we can do the 7th. That's still, that gives me enough time to get it to the commission. That's all for that,
Okay.
for that meeting. So they have time to look at it before the meeting.
Sure.
Okay. All right, good.
Great.
Okay.
Excellent. You're
Thank
all
you
set,
very
Kevin?
much.
You're
I
welcome.
am.
Thank you for coming up with something real quick. So hopefully we can get this beyond us quickly.
Thank you.
All right, now on to deliberation session. And deliberation of completed hearings, complete items on this agenda as determined by the commission. That brings us back to what is it? Which one was it? IWC 2020-02, right? 2021-02, 560 Hammertown Road.
Yes. Correct.
I don't see anything wrong with that application. I think it's good to go in my mind. Anybody else want to? Commissioner Hall?
I have driven by that property many times, and I think what they are proposing will definitely be an improvement. It's pretty much an eyesore today. By putting in little things like a well and a septic, I'd say we should let it go.
Is that the house that's blue? It's like blue.
Yeah.
It's the one that has
There's
a
like-
ladder to
Yeah,
get to
there's
the.
like piles of firewood all over the place.
Yeah,
This house. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, when I figured it out, I was like, wow, they're gonna clean that place up.
Like for 5 years now, the decorations have never come off the walls.
Exactly.
Oh
It's
my God.
got a great big for rent sign on the front now. So yeah, I think all of this would be a definite improvement.
I thought it was a livable house. I mean,
Got no water.
the gentleman that
It's
used
got
to
no
live
water
there.
source. It's got no
Um,
water source, they're saying.
It
There's
has
no
no
well.
water.
I don't know. Somebody lived there though for a long
Yes.
time.
Yes, there
Um,
was a fellow that lived there. Zoning said they called him a hermit. You know, the
Yeah.
guy just lived there, but there was no electricity, no water, no sanitary.
Well, he could have
A lot
had,
of wood
he could have had a
stove.
small, he could have had a
Old-fashioned wood
manual
stove
pump
and A
well.
lot of wood piles.
Yeah.
I had occasion to go up the steps to the front door when I was doing the census work, and it's one room, basically one room up there, and steps down to like a root cellar. And there was a few old chairs in there. It was really it was like a hermit's house.
Mm.
Mhm.
So I think we
Right.
should let this one move along.
Well,
Anybody
then
else?
I will move to approve this application with conditions.
All right, we have a motion to approve the
Second.
application with conditions.
Are
Second
we
from
gonna
Commissioner
do a
Gangris.
draft? Are we gonna do a draft like you normally do?
Oh, yes,
or-
right.
Oh,
Commissioner
yes.
Spence, that's right. We have to make a
Yes.
motion for staff to
I
draft.
would like to ask our staff to produce a
Draft approval.
draft approval with conditions to be mentioned at this time.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gangris.
And
And
the
now are we
only,
gonna list the conditions?
yeah,
Yeah.
the only ones that I came up with were to show the split rail fence in the legend. When
Yeah,
the
that we had to add. Yep.
And we also needed to talk as a commission about whether or not we wanted improved plantings.
It's really kind of overgrown behind that property. I mean, there's a
And
lot of
within
trees.
basements, though. It's all nasty plants. They're not good
Yeah,
plants.
yeah. I mean, nobody's lived there in the last 4 years, I think, or 4 or 5 years. It's all over. Yeah.
The planting plan definitely needs better detail.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's even where the plants are. I couldn't find where the junipers were going to be.
I couldn't either.
It's terrible.
I mean,
So- How
is
many
that,
plants- What?
I'm wondering then, does it make sense if there's gonna be a lot of stuff in this condition? Do we want to just have them address these concerns about the planting plan and just have them show us the updated plan versus trying to put a whole bunch of conditions on this approval?
Well, we already closed the hearing though.
Yeah, but we closed the
Can't-
hearing, so
Well,
they
we're gonna
can't present
publish-
anything. So it's gotta be motion to approve. It's got to draft a motion to, a letter to approve or a letter to deny it at this point. So the only way to get through it is to write all this stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, never mind. Forget I said that, just
We're not
continue.
talking about too many conditions, Keith. We got a lot more
But
conditions.
I understand,
Well,
but
I see what
you're talking about plant, you can't find plants on a plant. I mean, yes, I guess we could write it all in there.
And that's part of, it's a condition and they can't get any further until they meet all of that. If the planning plan still doesn't make sense, we just keep doing it until we get what is right.
Right, Denise will review it.
I
He'll have to
gotcha.
submit the original plan with your conditions, and if she reviews it and he hasn't met your conditions, then it'll go back
Okay, so,
to be corrected.
so let me go back to Ross. Can you quantify a
Yeah.
little bit of what you were talking about so that we could get specific?
Well, there were no quantities on the list.
Okay.
So the plants that were on the plan where they were marked, is that all the plants?
Mhm.
That was all the plants.
Yeah, that was it. So,
Kind of simple.
but he said he would increase it if we had asked him to. So I think it would be in our purview and in the wetland benefit to ask him for more. Maybe,
Hey,
I
Ross,
mean,
Okay, sorry, Ross, what would you suggest to be added?
It came to me after we passed the discussion, but the birch tree and the Bradford pear, they're not the highest quality plants. Is there anything can we ask them to change those to something a little more hardier? Something
Ross,
longer?
Ross, whatever you want, we'll throw it in there, and if we all like it, it'll go.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't even
red-
notice the Bradford pear. That's a
I couldn't find those on the plan. The two trees, if there was just two trees, I couldn't find them on the plan. And the two trees that they did choose, I don't know who thought of using those, but they're kind of a low quality plant. They don't live long. Birch trees have a lot.
Bradford pears, I agree.
Bradford pears, terrible short-lived trees. They have very, very weak crotches. They break apart and they don't live long.
And they're invasive. They're not native. So
Pear? I
yeah.
don't think I've ever seen one seed, but if you have, then that could be a problem.
Well, my daughter had one. Now she has many, and she didn't plant them. So that was just something that I remember hearing. I guess I didn't look at the plan well enough, and that's my fault for not doing that. But
I just noticed that they were kind of behind the fence and behind the limited clearing. That was only my question I had asked on that.
well, I guess since it's so sparse, it can't hurt.
Right.
So,
Can we offer up suggestions like red
Yes.
maple instead of the two trees? Maybe two
Yep.
red maples.
how about 4 red maples?
I like the idea. They don't have to be 2 to 2.5. Those are some big trees. We can go a little smaller and just add to the quantity.
Would they survive deer browse?
They probably have to protect the bark, but they'd have to do that with whatever tree they put in there. The other shrubs on the list, they didn't really concern me with deer.
I'm sorry, I was sneezing. So did we come up with a tree or? Couldn't hear
Ross
a thing.
Ross said red maple. I say red maple's fine.
Yeah. And I don't know if he can clarify whether the rhododendron is resistant, but if you went with a maximum rose bay, deer don't eat those. And they love wetlands.
Maximum rose bay?
Yes.
Is that a native plant, Ross?
I believe so, yeah.
Maximum rose bay?
Yeah, kind of a
And that's in
scraggly.
the rhodie family, or that's not in the rhodie family?
It's in a rosy family. It grows clump form. There isn't a main stem. Kind of a scraggly looking thing, but very durable, and deer don't eat it.
That's what I have.
So this plan doesn't show those on it. It shows it in the legend, but not on the actual.
I see one of those symbols. Oh, actually, the white birch and the Bradford pear have exactly the same symbol as the North. So
EP. I don't even see that.
So we're going to take out the white birch and the Bradford pear, right?
Yep.
And put in 4 red maples. Is that what you said?
Yep. 1.5 to 2, Ross. Ross, you're muted.
Yeah, that's fine.
1.5 to 2.
1.5 to 2, 4 red maples.
Okay. And then
And
this
how about
maximum
the
rose bay.
What's that?
And then this
Maximum rose bay.
Is there a number, a size for them, or?
4 to 5 foot, maybe.
How many?
What, the rhododendron? You're talking about the rhododendron?
Yeah. I don't know how many he has. Is it just one he has proposed?
Yes, 18 to 24 inch height here.
But there's no symbol for it. So.
Well,
We're out a number.
so the guy's going to put in 4 tiny little trees. They're not big at all. Okay. And then there should be a significant quantity of some of these things. I don't even see the circle with the X in it to show where the ground covers are.
Right.
but
Well, how about we suggest conservation seed mix back there? Because that's something that grows all native stuff and it's kind of dispersing, not dispersing, but it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very diverse. It's got
Good
a
idea.
combination of all kinds of things. And if it's not going to be mown or anything, it should just naturalize fine. The only problem will be the invasives that are there because multiflora rose will kill everything.
oh,
Now, if you're saying to put the seed, are we gonna put a limitation about mowing?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they shouldn't be, so twice a
you
year.
can't go behind a wetlands marker, right?
No, you can't, but somebody did. And they didn't come with a set of plans to us tonight either. We'll
Who's
get on
that?
that one later.
Okay.
We'll get to that one
You
later.
have to go behind a wetlands marker because that's very many times just put on the 100 foot upland review, and you're allowed to use your upland review. It's just the wetlands that you're not supposed to mow, unless it's determined otherwise that it's
Well,
necessary. to be shown.
Right.
we also have a split rail fence there, so kind of like,
Yeah.
that kind of saying
It won't be
nothing
mown.
goes beyond that
Yeah.
line.
Right.
Uh,
So if you're putting the trees behind the split rail fence and you're talking about conservation mix, the conservation mix is also behind the split rail, which now is, we're gonna allow them to go back there because I think the wetlands is very close to that limit. I don't have a plan in front of me, so I'm going by
yeah,
memory.
it's not that far. It's not that far. 20,
I
25
just don't
feet.
want them to end up mowing in the wetlands. That's why I'm just trying to.
I
I
don't
don't
know
think
that
we
they
should,
need to mow.
I don't
We
think they have
can
to mow behind the fence.
Yeah,
Other than mow behind, have them clear out what they see and then put, like you said, the wetlands mix back there amongst the trees.
So then we should
And-
say no mow is what
Right.
I'm getting
No mow,
at.
Mhm.
no mow.
We want
But
them
if
to
there's
clear
a-
up the
But if
invasives.
there's multifloral rows or some stuff back there, they can obviously yank it out while they're doing the
Removal
trees or
of
whatever.
invasive, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So clear out the invasives, and then we're talking about conservation seed mix, because that's an upland thing that you don't want a wetland thing because it's not in the wetlands.
Right.
It's in the uplands. And then the trees and plants that were, what else did you want besides the
red
the
maple and the
maple,
maximum?
Ross?
The rest I'm fine with, other than like the junipers. I don't know where they're going. Can anybody see those? I can't find my map.
No.
It's might be
No, I
under
don't
the.
know where.
I don't know why we're putting junipers in. Are those wetlands plants?
No.
No,
And blue star juniper there, and this is kind of shady. I remember this as being a shady site.
it's a very shady lot. Very shady.
Okay, so I say we get rid of those ground covers altogether. So it
Get
doesn't
rid of
do
the
the
ground
ground cover.
covers.
Yeah, well, they're juniper. So why we're making them put in 2 more trees. We'll make them
Five
put
road-
in.
How many roadies we say? 5.
Let's make them
I
get
put
like,
6 to 8.
yeah, 8. 8's good. I
Okay.
mean,
Roadies?
he has no numbers here.
Yeah,
And
got a
let's make
natural.
it simpler. Let's make it simpler. Let's use these
Okay.
rhododendrons. Let's pick one other shrub out of this, whatever we like, out of the remaining 3.
Well, the spice bush and the blueberry is always very good. And
And
winterberry.
shady?
Those 3 are
And
very
shady?
good.
In shady, Lois?
Yeah, I think so. Right, Ross?
Yeah, yeah.
I know my spice bush do very well in the shade.
All right, so then I say we do spice bush and the roadies. 8 and 8, 9 and 9. Gotta be odd numbers with
9 and
plants.
9.
You never be even, except for the trees. The trees you could do even because
What size spice bush?
it's got 18 to 24 in here. I think they should 18 to
Keep that
24, and then the roadies, like Ross said, maybe make them 2 to 3
4 to
foot.
5 feet high. He's in
Oh,
the
bigger?
the rose bay he had at 4 to 5 feet height, and then
Right.
the maple was 1.5 to 2 inch caliber.
That's fine.
Okay.
How about
Then-
winterberry and the blueberry?
Those are good. Those are good.
Well,
How
how many are we
many-
gonna make them do now? How many more shrubs are we gonna? How many shrubs do we want them to put in?
Just the
What do you
winterberry and
have?
the blueberry, right?
What he has on the plan is just one winterberry and 1 high bush blueberry.
I think he said 2 and 3. I had written down 2 and 3, but I
All
don't know. Oh, because of the.
Well, I thought we were replacing the rhododendron with a different rhododendron.
And it's going to be bigger.
And yeah,
Right.
we're gonna get 9 of those. 9.
And then I thought you said 9 spice bushes.
And 9 spice bushes. That should be plenty of shrubs if you only
I
had
agree.
4 on the plan before,
I agree.
right? So that would be like the equivalent of having 4 or 5 of each of these.
Okay, so it's just, we only have 3 different types is basically all we're saying. We're specifying the
Yeah.
3 types, quantities and sizes. Okay.
And we're
Spice
still going
bush
to
and
say conservation seed mix, right?
And I have conservation seed mix listed too, yes. And I
So
also have
oops.
no mow.
And we're not doing the arrowwood, no arrowwood. I don't know why we would put 1 evergreen in anywhere.
But basically, I'm just, the way I'll word it, I don't have it right now, but the way I'll word is that what we just said, the 3 species sizes and numbers is what we want.
And what we want there. Yep. And then they could get a placement approval by, I mean, I don't think a landscape architect drew this plan. I think it was probably the site engineer who threw these around, right?
I think so.
Probably.
So do you want to have a placement approval, or you just want to see them behind the
Well-
fence?
When he submits it, I mean, I could always just run it by you. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess we could say, yeah, he could, if when he submits them on the plan, we could just say, oh, it looks good. And
Okay.
Ross, would these be better off being grouped in groups, or would they be better off separated out into dispersed?
I would try to naturalize it as much as possible. However they were to grow natural, there'd be no order to it, no symmetry.
Okay, so just kind of random.
so it's 18 shrubs and 4 trees.
Correct. That's what I have.
Okay.
Clear out the invasives
Yep.
Yep.
and no mow.
Yep.
Protect them from deer. No,
Conservation mix.
I don't know if they don't have a landscape architect that's given them hints on this stuff, they might not have that even in consideration. We're supposed to, by the way, in the regs, it says that all landscape plans are supposed to be prepared by an appropriate professional, which is a landscape architect or somebody of that ilk. So we are supposed to actually ask who prepared the plan and what their qualifications are. So just we could have saved ourselves some grief here had we done that to start off with. So just a note to ourselves that that's something we should be doing. Usually, we're used to getting plans that are submitted by groups
Yeah.
that,
We're used to, yes. Normally we have, they're set with the landscape architect.
they have a whole team that works on them together.
Yes.
And not everybody does that, so we have to be on the ball.
And but in regards to that, when we allow someone to do a remediation submission, a homeowner or somebody, and we allow them to present us with, and we say, as long as it's on the list of approved, plants that we like, you could draw your own plan. So how is that
Any different? I see what
any
you're
different? I mean, I do understand this is it's going probably to planning and zoning as well. But to make someone have to hire a landscape architect for something like this, like going to cost them 3 times as much as the planting job. So I guess, I don't know, do we have, I mean, Lois, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying it's a good point, but do we have any type of our own, what's the word? Our own interpretation of that?
Well, what we were talking about with the homeowner thing, that's a remediation. That's different. That doesn't have the same rule.
Oh,
So,
I guess
yeah.
you're right, because this feels like this is a remediation. He's cleaning up
right.
the area.
Right.
He's not doing any work in the wetlands. There was nothing that was in the wetlands. He's enhancing it as part of like a beautification, really.
Right, which is a good thing.
So-
But it's a development application, and therefore does, all the normal rules apply. Of course, it's always up to the commission where we can, it's up to our discretion most of the time, but it's in our best,
Discretion, that was the word, thank you. That was the word.
it's in our best interest to follow the regs as often as that is done.
Okay, so is that all the changes?
Monitoring bonds, right? You want those
Yeah.
in?
Oh, and Scott's comments, whatever of Scott's comments have not been
That's what I was
addressed.
getting to.
Did Scott cover the bond in his comments?
So that had to be submitted.
But the engineer had said that he would accept whatever Scott was going to recommend.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that could actually be written in there as offered or
Well,
something like that.
Site stabilization and restoration bond, and, oh, I don't have the numbers with this one. Okay.
No, because he didn't submit it, Denise.
Well, sometimes Scott will put a sheet together where
Oh.
and I was looking to see if Scott had it on, attached, but I don't see it.
Okay.
Unless he had it on the first one. Yeah. Nope. But also, when he was, they were talking, like, Scott said, putting the, what was it? The filter fabric around the bottoms and side, that's standard. And he's saying that he didn't have to on something else. That's normally the way they're done.
Okay.
Just,
So do we need to include any of Scott's comments in our
I will put,
approval?
and if you just say any of, Scott's comments, I'll verify what are still outstanding and make sure those get put into the draft.
Okay.
Okay. So again, changes, you want to just recap? We're talking about the plants, we're talking about the maintenance, we're talking about the removal of the invasives. And was there something else? The wetlands mix?
I've added monitoring to it.
Yep.
We said, let's see, naturalize as much as possible, no symmetry, so that's the placement of it. The split rail fence and legend you talked about. And mine, it's just, no, those details were taken care of and that was approved, so. There may be no details on the outlet control structure, but that's something Scott would have probably had as well, so.
Well, that would show up with P and Z, or does this not go to P and Z?
No, this should go to P and Z.
Okay.
I don't see why it would go to P and Z because it's a non-conforming lot that's being added to, so.
Okay.
All right, so you want to restate the motion? We can move along on that?
I move that we direct staff to draft a approval letter with all the aforementioned conditions.
I second it again.
The second for Commissioner Gingras. Motion from Commissioner Spence, second by Commissioner Gingras. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Moving right along. We are at IWC agent activity reports. Agent approvals, IAA 2021-06, 35 Bridge Road, installation of standby generator 120 gallon liquid propane gas tank. Is that nothing crazy
No.
about that?
Nope, it's just the locations in the upland review area, so that's why they're getting an agent approval.
Gotcha.
Same thing with the one below it too.
Yep, I'll read
for
that in.
220 West Circle.
IA 2021-07, 220 Web Circle, installation 220 LPG tanks. And then IAA 2021-08, 61 Millbrook Road. What was happening there, Denise?
An installation of a 12 by 14 foot shed.
Right, okay. Now we have permitted uses as of right.
Mhm.
IPU 2018-01, Department of Public Works. Road repair, replacement, or general maintenance. IW regulations, sections 4.2C, expires 3/28/2023. IPU 2021-04, 163 Barnhill Road, cleaning associated with nursery activities. That's Is that
And
the
we're
old
gonna-
Twombly nursery?
That was the old Twomley. It's no longer, it's under new ownership, so they're trying to get this up. They've put in a new, a permit for new signage and new tenant aspect. I do have something else I want to talk to you, some other work they want to do. We'll talk on that on other, but this was for them to do some of just the general cleanup that they needed to. So
It's still gonna be a nursery?
it's still going to be a nursery. I know that they did ask me about maybe declaring themselves a farm, but that's something they have to work through and do whatever aspects gets associated with that.
Yes. Okay, then you said there's something I wrote.
IPU 2021-05,
Yes.
it's 35 Highfield Drive, and it's dead tree removal from storm
All right,
damage.
thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's it under G, right?
Correct.
So H, enforcement deliberation, no public input, deliberation on complete remediation submissions or items to this agenda, nothing, and we have one tabled, which is Guinea Road. 16, administrative review, enforcement issues, nothing. Status updates, none. So over to general discussion, other.
Okay.
Start with the minutes, or do you want to start with your thing, Denise?
If you don't mind, I'll do my stuff. It's quickly, both of them should have been in your packets. I'm going to start with 94 Century Hill Road.
Yep.
So they put a little drawing together. The people that own the house have just bought the house within the past year or so. They have a deck that comes off the back of the house, and then the grade kind of goes down a little steep. So they want to add about 18 inches of fill. It's right at the edge of the upland review area. And they've talked to planning and zoning, and what they're doing is not anything major. It's all on us trying to figure out, with this, do we do it as an agent approval, or can it stay as a permitted use as of right, because it kind of falls under general, nope. I see somebody shaking their, that's why I'm asking that question,
Not
because
because of filling involved. I don't think there's any permitted uses as of right when involving filling.
that's why I wanted to ask, because it's, landscaping, it's bending it a little bit. So that's why I said, let me,
A little bit too much, because then you could enter into dangerous territory.
Exactly.
Um,
One load becomes 3 loads, and then it's,
Yeah.
and then
And it
it's,
becomes precedent. Then there's precedent involved too. So we got to be really careful about setting precedent.
that was the general way I was going, but I felt it was best, let me just ask. They have an IPU for the tree removal that they had, so. Okay, now on the next one for 163 Barn Hill Road.
hold
You
on one second, Denise, wouldn't it make sense for these Century people just to come in
Yep.
and talk to us at the next meeting? Like in the beginning, maybe in the informal discussion or
If
whatever.
Want them to, I mean, if we're gonna go in terms of an agent approval,
So we get a direct, idea from what they're looking to do directly from them, right? You know what I mean? Like, so we speak to them, we get a clear understanding of what they're looking to do. And,
okay. So I'll have them at the April 10th meeting, I think it was. 10th meeting, 14th, whatever.
Yep.
What was it?
14th,
Okay.
right? Now you have me double checking. Hold on.
Yeah, I just looked. It's the 14th.
Okay. Oy.
March and April sometimes overlap, same,
Yeah.
with the dates, but
Okay.
okay. Okay, so then 163 Barn Hill, that's the other map that I gave you. Now,
160.
does everybody have that little map that's like a triangular area in blue? And then he had some, yeah, that's the map right there. It's on the screen.
I don't have that one. Okay, I'll look at the screen.
Oh, okay.
I don't see it either, unless it's,
Unless I got it after this packets went out, I thought I got it prior, but okay, so the area that's in blue,
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
what?
I'll just
Oh.
rotate it so you could actually read it.
Is it important?
Okay.
There we go. So the area in blue, there's, you know, a little bit of a stream that, there's a culvert under their driveway, and then there's a stream that's in that area. They have a bunch of, they want to get an arborist in there to take a look, because there's a lot of trees that are dead to remove out of there. So they, you know, they want to talk about, now they did also say they want to replace with new trees to grow and harvest upon maturity. So I wanted to kind of talk to you about that, whether that's allowed, because it's, some of it's in a wetland area. It's not just the upland review area. And then they also wanted to do some plantings behind the stone wall in the front that abuts Barn Hill Road, to help beautify and kind of clean it up a little bit, make it look a little bit nicer. I did have some pictures as well. I know that I had pictures that I put on the jump drive. Just to try to show you a little bit of what the area looks like. So that's the area that's in the blue, with some of the trees and what's been down and just kind of laying there. So they want to, you know, go in there and clean that up a little bit and plant it with some new stuff. The only thing, the word harvesting is the only thing I'm a little bit, just trying to show you a little bit of the, where the
What, this
culvert.
is a red, I'm sorry,
Pardon?
Denise, this is a residence?
No, there is a residential house to the right of this driveway. I don't quite understand. I don't know if maybe the person lived, so here's the 2 rows of the redwood, twig red dogwoods, I guess. That's what I think they are.
Yeah.
But there's the wall a little bit behind it to the right where that, yep, right there. That's where they want to put a row of evergreens.
On the roadside or the wetland side?
On the back of the wetland side.
On this
That would
side.
require them to having to dig all those tree stumps out. Or are they not taking those trees down?
Some of the trees, that this is where they want to get an arborist in to have the dead diseased trees removed, taken out, and then replant it with some things, but they want to put a new hedge of evergreens in that area.
So this is all to create a grand entrance to the nursery, the new nursery?
Basically, and to make it, because it really is an eyesore. If you drove up Barn Hill Road, you know, there's a pond further back on their property that feeds down. There's like a little waterfalls that goes down towards some of the houses towards Israel, I think it's called, the road. But you
Israel
get
Hill.
up here, pardon?
Israel Hill, yes.
Okay. But when you get up to this point, it's just, because so much is just down, I think they want a little bit of a screening and to beautify it and also to clean it up.
So this is the old Twombly nursery.
This was, well, I guess, yeah, the sign says Twombly on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So
It was
when they say,
before my time, because it wasn't, there was no nursery there since I've been here. It's just been stagnant land.
oh, I thought the new owners were operating out of it, but yeah, maybe I haven't seen those trucks in a while.
They might be, but it's Cornell Farm is what they're called. They're not Twombly.
Yeah. Well, Twombly, I think Twombly sold it to someone who reused the name.
Yeah,
So
they were-
Twombly sold Twombly Nursery, and Twombly Nursery was in business under new ownership. Those guys must have, folded in
Left
or
it,
whatever.
and then there's these new people here that have been trying to take care of
Okay.
it.
Well, my first thoughts, okay, I'll start up, is that if they're going to clean up the wetlands, then they should have to winch any plant material out of there or hand carry it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I kind of
tractor,
mentioned that to them. Yep.
yeah, tractors or any type of other equipment would not be
no.
allowed.
Right.
And if they're talking about harvesting trees in the wetlands, they can't be like tree spading out the trees so they could sell them as live trees. If they were going to cut them down and sell them as like Christmas trees and then replant it, I don't see a problem with that, as long as they do the activity from the other side of the wall. If they were going to use, that's just me. I'm
So
not saying this is the decision.
harvest,
I'm
we
just
need
saying,
a better definition of harvesting.
yeah, if they're
Yeah.
talking about tree spading the trees, no,
Yep.
because that means a piece of
Oh,
heavy
yeah.
equipment has to get up to
Right.
them and spade them out. And
So it
So-
sounds like if they're planning on planting something that they're gonna harvest, it sounds like they're planning on clear cutting the whole thing in order to plant something that's gonna grow to a point where you can harvest it. So are they
Well-
talking about clear cutting everything or just leaving the good stuff and
No, they
planting
said good stuff because it says intent to hire a licensed arborist to evaluate dead, dying, and trees with no chance of survival within the blue box. That's exactly how he wrote it. He said they're going to get an arborist to tag what's bad in that area.
on your
Okay.
drawing there, Denise, or whoever drawing this was behind the pictures,
That
they're
was from
saying
that.
red line said proposed evergreen planting on the interior of the existing stone wall. That should just be a straight line. That should,
That is a straight line, that red one.
yeah, that should be a straight line, Lois. They shouldn't be planting anything else in that blue area, especially nothing to be harvested. And they couldn't go in there with equipment to plant anything significant anyways. If they wanted to put some, wetland species plants in there and put like little seedlings in with a little hand shovel,
Well,
all
the
day
way-
long, right?
The way Denise read it, it was kind of nebulous because it sounded to me like they wanted to put evergreen trees along the road to beautify, but that's not what they were going to harvest. They were going to do something else behind that area in the blue box. Was I
No,
misinterpreting?
into the blue box that the arrow says, once the dead or dying trees are removed, replace with new trees to grow and harvest upon maturity.
Once
That's-
the dead are
that's-
done, oh yeah, you're right. That is pointing to the
Going
to the blue box.
which is in the wetlands
much-
area.
How much
You
footage
can't do
are you
it.
talking
Nope.
about?
No harvesting in the blue area.
No, if they were,
I'm not sure. I got to do a little bit more research because there's something.
how about these guys come in too and talk to us about what they're trying to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is gonna be a discussion one, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
obviously they're a nursery, they probably have, they're in a business of agriculture and growing stuff and whatnot. And they may actually, I don't know, correct, I could be totally off base here, but maybe they have some other, if they're considered a farm, maybe they have other working under some slightly different rules, maybe.
They're not a farm yet, but that was a question they asked recently, because if they are a farm, the rules are different.
Yeah, so, and then during the discussion, we could discuss whether they do get the farm classification, then, they should be wise enough to be able to have a discussion and, maybe even educate us a little bit about what that allows them to do.
Mhm.
And then that might change the discussion. It may be that we'll let you do this once you get your status. You know what I mean? This is what we'll let you do if you get farm. This is what you could do now as a nursery.
Yeah,
we can
I
just-
have not met the property owner. I have not met. I've met somebody that works with him as partner or something. So, or he may be a middleman as well. I don't know. So that, he's been calling me to try to figure out what they need in order to go ahead to do things. So,
Yeah.
and this one kind of made me like, I'm not really sure, because I'm thinking it's probably going to be a agent approval because if we're in the wetlands, but then, it's not clear cut.
I think having them come in to talk to us is probably the best thing we can do.
Okay.
And if both of these, I guess we could put them on the agenda. They could also get on the agenda too, to
Right
not
at the
be at the,
beginning.
well,
we
they
wanted.
could always talk to us right at the beginning. Can they just get on the agenda for an actual slot in the agenda?
Sure,
Well,
under
it's-
discussion.
Like,
With that, kind of like we're doing with 64 Cambridge.
Right.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So,
So we would put them under item E.
Yeah, discussion.
Yeah.
okay.
okay. Good enough. Now we're,
Oh, one more.
oh,
Sorry, I lied. 118 Elm Street. I don't know if you remember it. This was the one, the fella came in, he was redoing the shed in the back of the property, and we have the marker posts. And behind it, there was grass planted around the lake, and you saw all the trees that were down that were beyond the, well, he was supposed to have plans to us. I sent him a reminder on March 10th, and I've still have heard nothing.
And did we ever send that? Does he have an NOV on it?
Yes, he does. He came in front of us, and we
I
told
remember it
him
coming
what we
from
had
us,
to
but I
do.
couldn't remember if it was, if we had decided yet.
Yeah.
All right,
He was
so what's the
supposed to
next
be,
step?
we gave him until the 24th. We told him he had to apply with a set of plans the 24th. I reminded him on the 10th. You know, I basically said, this is a follow-up to the, your violation at 118. To date, there's been no known contact with our office regarding this issue. Please be advised that the Inland Wetland Commission puts dates into place for reasons, and failure to follow these guidelines may result in this issue being pushed to a citation where fines are possible. And I've heard
Did we
nothing,
give a
so-
referral to, did we refer this to planning and zoning as well? Or
I
do we
don't,
normally do that? Would we do that?
well, planning and zoning was made aware of this too. I mean, they know because he doesn't have a building permit. He's been doing work on the property with no permits. It's also a zoning thing, but I can't talk for zoning as to, as far as I know, I don't know of any violation being issued by them, even though it was discussed.
Okay, whatever the next step is, we gave them
So
the
just-
opportunity.
Okay, so
Whatever
I'm
we
gonna
normally do.
citation then. Okay,
Yes. As long as everybody else agrees with that.
if that's what everybody agrees.
Thumbs
'Cause
up,
to me, this
we're all
was a
good.
little bit egregious, what was done, that, I thought we were pretty clear as to, you need to get a plan together, you need to do this, you need to do that, and
I actually was by there the other day and I looked in, there's like a boat there. I don't know if that's behind, front or behind the line, but doesn't look like anything's changed.
but I know that we, just for your information, we got a plan for the lot next to him. So that was 3 lots. There was the existing house and then the 2 new lots. So the one next to him, to the right of him, we have a set of plans that are currently being reviewed.
Is that
So
the
there's gonna be
original
construction.
seller? Was that the seller who sold him the lot or not that?
Yeah,
know.
he bought it from the original owner who did the subdivision.
Okay. So
Okay,
that's it
I'm
for
done.
that now?
Yes, I'm sorry.
So we have to talk about these regulations and also in-person meetings, right? Is that what's left? Oh, minutes.
Minutes.
If we
yeah.
could table the minutes, I had a couple questions on clarity on some of them, and the meeting was not posted on the video is not posted yet, so I can't do that. So
March
if we,
10th?
So you want to table the minutes until the next meeting?
yeah,
Okay,
Okay, that's good.
unless somebody else has, has read them and would like to.
That's fine. We got a couple more things to do. We can make it an earlier night.
I turn into a pumpkin soon if we don't,
Yeah,
Okay.
I've had a long week. I've had a lot of good night's sleep this week, so I'll be okay with a short meeting.
So we still gotta do regulations, right?
Yeah, regulations, we got to talk about back in person meetings.
Right.
Because it's back open, right? I got that. We
I-
could go back to the chambers if we like, right? You want
If
to fill
you
us in that?
like.
right, if you want to, most are still meeting remotely. I think
Okay.
only town council meets in person.
We're
Okay,
not
well,
sure,
well-
I'm not sure if other people want to come to the town hall yet either, even though it's open.
I'm not
Okay,
thrilled
so-
about it, to tell you the truth.
I don't mind this way at all. I think it's harder for some of these bigger presentations. to do it this way, but the way I understand it, there's now glass, like plexiglass partitions, right? And there's assigned seating. Is that correct? I haven't been in there to see.
I haven't been in there.
There is plexiglass on the desks, on the dais. I don't know as far as the assigned seating goes. It's really up to the commission what you feel comfortable with. I don't believe there's any pressure to go back to meeting in person. If you want to continue to meet this way, there's nothing, I don't believe there's
Yeah.
anything coming from the selectman's office saying that you have to meet in person.
No, we don't. No, not saying that we have to. We have now the option, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And but I'm not in a favor of personally sitting around with plexiglass, so everybody's 6 feet or more apart, and then we still have to wear a mask and try to talk through it. So I'd rather wait until that part of it gets lifted. But I just wanted to bring it up because I got the email showing the what's now allowed, and
Mhm.
let you guys know and just have something to think about. All right, so that's it for that. So we'll stay remote.
Okay.
Stay remote.
Okay. Now the regulation stuff.
What regulation stuff?
Didn't we get some
Yeah,
regulation
I
stuff to
emailed
discuss during this?
I emailed them to
I
everybody.
didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I honestly looked at it briefly and
And I thought someone said got it, or a couple people did.
I got it,
I know you did, and I thought,
They got it.
but Clark, you're saying you didn't get it.
I didn't get a chance to look at it, and I have to take care of my 11-year-old autistic child. She can't go to bed. So I'm gonna have to excuse myself. Sorry, guys.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we just do this? Is there anything like critical time wise on this?
Nothing is critically timing wise, but what's constantly coming up now is the question about the remediation versus development applications. So the sooner we get that reg installed, the better. Once we decide, the way that this works is once we decide what we would like to see in the line of regulations, it has to be reviewed by council.
Mhm.
Now, I would like to see it reviewed by a land use attorney, not just, not that there's anything wrong with a regular attorney, but a land use attorney is really much more familiar with the ins and outs of land use decisions, obviously. So it's best reviewed by land use. After they approve it, we have to send it to DEP. Or maybe that happens at the same time. I'm not, I think they,
Well-
no, I think the attorney has to approve first. Then it's gotta get.
Lois, one second. When you say land use, you're talking about like our council, Barbara Schellenberg?
Yeah, yeah. Or,
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure if you were being like beyond that,
No.
because obviously that's
As
it
long
much
as-
easier
As
move.
long as they're very well versed in land use decisions,
Okay.
because otherwise you can put things in your regulations that don't help you. They can actually end up hurting you. So the more expertise we have in reviewing it, the better. Then it's got to go to DEP. Then we have to put it up for public hearing. So it takes usually several months at the very least to get these things actually to happen. So
Okay.
the longer you put it off, the worse it's going to be. So most of them, there's a couple of additional definitions which only help us in the defining things because it takes questions away. People can read it right in the regulations. And there's a couple of things that clarify, I believe. And I read through them. I put my commentary underneath it to explain why we were doing this and how it helps us. And of course, extra opinions always help.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Spence. Why don't we do this? Let's give everybody another till the next meeting to read it. And then since Commissioner Gingrich has to leave, might as well just close the meeting at this point. I'll just make sure that we Just read through the rest of it. So the minutes of March 10th, 2021 are being tabled to the next meeting. Regulation Amendment Committee, no, that was it right there, right? Public Outreach Committee, assuming nada again. So then just pending items. What's that?
We did get some correspondence. It's from the Connecticut DEP. It's a permit application for the use of pesticides in state waters. It's their usual 3-year permit, and it's for Great Oak Pond, Monroe.
Great Oak Pond or Great Oak? Great Oak Pond. Where's that?
Isn't that a Wolf Park? Isn't that Great Oak Pond?
That's Great.
That's Great Hollow.
That's Great Hollow
Oh,
Lake.
sorry.
I think there's a pond within the Great Oak off Cutler's Farm, that development there. There might be
Yes, it is. It's off Cutler's Farm. Sorry, and like in the old Colony Road area.
Okay.
Okay.
So then just the pending items, IWV 2019-16, 43 Birds Eye Drive, IWV 2020-12, 118 Elm Street. That was
That's
what we
the
just talked about.
citation. Yep.
And IWV 2019-15, 13A Monroe Turnpike. Okay, someone make a motion to close the meeting?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion
Hey,
by
can I
Commissioner Hall to close. Go ahead.
Can I
Russ.
ask a question? Would it be wise to have a land use attorney at that next meeting when the the nursery comes in and talks? Because, he may be telling us what the regulations are if you have a farm status. And he may be telling us if you don't have the farm status, but who knows if he knows the rules, Would be better off reaching out to somebody who knows exactly what the laws are. Can
Let
we
me
allow
see-
somebody to go in,
Do you want me to see if we could get authorization for Barbara to attend it?
I do. It could cut time in half.
Okay.
Well, my one comment about that. Now, we could certainly ask, we have to get approval every time
Yep.
we bring in Barbara because it costs the town money and there's a budget. But also though, if we also could require them to provide the attorney to speak on their behalf. You know what I mean? Like let them pay for it.
Yeah,
So,
great.
but I think in the initial, it's a good idea, I think, but maybe in the initial discussion, we don't have to get that, because it's just going to be an initial discussion. They're going to have to decide what they want to get approval for, either as a farm or a nursery.
Well, actually, there's a lot of information in the statutes about that, and I know the statutes about as interesting to read as yesterday's news. But there's farming. There's all kinds of exemptions for farming and definitions of farming, and I don't think you need to actually get status of a farm. You can use farming definitions without having been classified as a farm. So
Well, I think in town, anyone, if they're a farm, their status on the land records is a farm. Then
Yeah.
so like, for instance,
that's a tax thing, right?
1380, not 1366 Monroe Turnpike, he has a status of a farm. So when he had a violation, actually some of it wasn't a violation because he had the farm status.
Yeah.
So we worked that out once.
That could be a town classification for taxes. I don't know if
It is, but I think there's loops they have to go to as well. So we believe that it's not just the tax classification, but they need to go through planning and zoning in order to be able to declare themselves that. We think.
There's also rules, because I tried to work on a forestry status, and there is rules when you get these special statuses. There are rules you have to abide by, for sure. But it's a good idea, Ross. We could ask. We could put the request in for council. Obviously, it's always, you can always put a request in, and we could see what happens. What they say about that. And then obviously when they come in and talk to us, we'll have a better pinpoint of what we're going to need to do, or really what they need to do. It's going to put the onus on them to tell us what, is required or not required. And then agree or disagree, I guess. But, all right. Anything else? All right, so
Move to
Commissioner-
adjourn.
hold on, just one second. I wanna, so Clark already left
Yes, he
He
left
left like
9.
2 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago. All right, let's just say that Commissioner Gingrich left the meeting at 9:16 PM, just so it's on the record, because so otherwise he would be missing a vote on the adjournment. Okay, so someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Commissioner Spence to adjourn the meeting, second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor, aye. Motion passes unanimously, minus Commissioner Gingrich. Meeting closes at 9:18 PM. Good to see you guys. See you next
Good night,
time.
everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Night.